Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Tanu Kalsi, Assistant Professor from Government Degree College, Dharampur from Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. Today we are going to talk on module Corporate Governance based on Values from the paper Human Values and Indian Ethos. After studying this module, the students shall be able to learn about the following: corporate governance, values, human values, importance of human values in business organization, scope of corporate governance, issues of corporate governance, steps for making corporate governance effective, corporate social responsibility, approaches to corporate social responsibility, applicability of corporate social responsibility. So let us first study the introduction. The concept of corporate governance emerged in the late 1980s when several companies collapsed in UK due to inadequacy of operating control. This led to setting up of the Cadbury Committee on Corporate Governance in 1991 in London Stock Exchange. The concern was not much on account of collapse of these companies, but because these companies were perceived to be very stable companies in their financial statements. The reports of the committee along with the code of best practices was published in December 1992, which was to be complied with by all the listed companies. Corporate governance envisages the set of systems and checks which ensure that the company is properly managed to benefit of shareholders, creditors, employees, customers, suppliers, government and the society. Interest in the corporate governance is worldwide. The underlying issues in governance have fascinated the man over the centuries. But today, the power is with the principal form of business organization, that is, a company. Corporate governance assumes center stage when things went seriously wrong with the corporate world in the wake of high profile corporate scams, frauds, failures during the past 3 decades. The business world was shocked beyond belief with both the scale and degree of illegal and unethical corporate practices. Consequently, this triggers for the need of reviews and reforms in the domain of corporate governance. In today's changing face of global corporate world, a proper balance between people's aspiration and business demands could be achieved with the implementation of concept of good corporate governance that gives presence to the human elements in the organizations, mainly focusing on people-centered policies. Concept of corporate governance. In corporate governance, governance is the act of framing plans, policies and strategies and monitoring the same to ensure their proper implementation and accepting the accountability for the affairs of the corporation. According to Corporate Governance Handbook 1996, corporate governance is the relationship between shareholders and their companies and the way in which the shareholders act to encourage best practice, example by voting at annual general meetings and by regular meetings with the company's senior management. Increasingly, this includes shareholder activism, which involves campaign by a shareholder or group of shareholders to achieve change in companies. SEBI Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee report on corporate governance 2000 says fundamental objective of corporate governance is enhancement of long-term shareholder value, which the same time protecting interest of other stakeholders. Values. Values are impressive objectives and goals in human life, which bring peace, progress and prosperity in human life. Values are basic fundamental beliefs that an individual thinks to be true. Every individual has a set of values through which he looks at all things and also at the world at large. It can be said that most of the people will never deviate from their values. The values can be said to be guiding principle in one's life. Values can be defined as a bridge by which an individual makes decisions regarding good and bad, right and wrong, and most important and less important. Human values. Human values are the principles, standards, beliefs, and convictions that people adopt their guidelines in daily activities. Principal human values are foundations on which the professional ethics are built. Some of the main human values are as follows: civility, respect, and consideration, honesty, fairness, loyalty, and sharing, openness, listening, welcoming, acceptance, recognition, and appreciation, brotherhood, friendship, empathy, compassion, and love. Importance of human values in business organization. Human values are very important for all of us, especially during human interaction at the business places. These are the foundations for any viable life within society with peaceful coexistence. The main benefits of values for any organization are as follows: contribute to organization's vitality and performance, tell people how to behave to achieve the organization's vision, provide people with a common language, bind people together as a community, contribute to shared meaning in the organization, enhance communication and efficiency of teamwork, strong awareness of value culture with good understanding of business goals, innovation to support organization competitiveness, improves services to partners' needs, provide base to management for better decision making. Scope of corporate governance can be regarded as being about leadership for efficiency, for probity, and for responsibility. Leadership which is both transparent and accountable. Corporate governance is concerned with holding the balance between economics and social goals and between individual and communal goals. The aim to align as nearly as possible the interests of individual, corporations, and society. Corporate governance means a system through which the corporate entities are governed, controlled, and directed. Corporate governance is concerned with ethics, values, and morals of the company and its directors. The philosophy of corporate social responsibility is also an important aspect of corporate governance. It is a system of structuring, operating, and controlling of a company with a view of achieving long-term objective to satisfy shareholders and stakeholders, which includes employees, auditors, creditors, customers, and suppliers. Issues of corporate governance. There are several important issues in corporate governance and they play an important role in the issues which are interrelated and interdependent with each other. Some of these issues are as follows. First is distinguishing the role of board and management. Shareholders elect the directors as their representatives. Board delegates the responsibility for managing the business to Chief Executive Officer, who in turn delegates the responsibility to other senior executives. Therefore, the board occupies the key position between the shareholder and management of the company. Next is composition of board and related issues. The composition of board is a major issue in corporate governance as the board acts as link between shareholders and management and its decisions affect the performance of the company. The SEBI appointed Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee's report defined the composition of board as the board of directors of the companies shall have an optimum combination of executive and non-executive directors with not less than 50% of the board of directors to be non-executive directors. Next is separation of role of CEO and chairperson. A major theme of ongoing discussion in corporate governance literature around the world is concerned with the role of CEO and chairperson. The role of chairperson is to lead the board, whereas The role of CEO is to lead the senior management team in managing of the company. Next is the board should have committees. Many committees and authorities on corporate governance have recommended that, in one voice, the appointment of special committees such as nomination committee, remuneration committee and audit committee. These committees would lessen the burden of the board and shall also enhance their effectiveness. Next is board independence. A key feature of a good board is its collective independence, especially in the context of its overarching responsibility of oversight and monitoring of executive management's performance. This requires an unbiased and objective board. Next is directors and executives remuneration. This is one of the most vexed issues in corporate governance that comes to the center stage during massive corporate scams and failures. The Companies Act 2013 has suggested that the formation of remuneration committee that shall recommend to board a policy relating to remuneration of the directors, key managerial personnel and other employees. Next is disclosure and audit. The OECD principles lays down the number of provisions for the disclosure and communication of the facts about the company to the shareholders. Next is dialogue with institutional investors. The Cadbury Committee recommends that the institutional investors should maintain the regular and systematic contact with the companies apart from their participation in general meeting of the shareholders. Next is value-based corporate culture. For any organization to run in an effective way, it needs to have certain ethics and values. Value-based corporate cultures is a good practice for the corporate culture. Next is holistic view. This holistic view is more or less godly and spiritual attitude which leads in running the organizations. It is not easier to adopt it. It needs special efforts, and once adopted, it leads to developing qualities of nobility, tolerance and empathy. Next is compliance with law. Those companies which need progress, have ethical values and need to run long business. They comply the rules of SEBI, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, Competition Act 2002 and cyber laws. Next is transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability are important aspects for good governance. It is needed in order to that the government has faith in corporate bodies, and it has reduced the corporate tax to 30% as against 97% in 1970s. Next is necessity to judicial reforms. This is necessity of good economy to have good corporate governance. Next is good corporate governance ensures that the companies grow globally. In today's age of competition and globalization, our several Indian corporate bodies are becoming global giants, which have become possible due to good corporate governance. Steps for making corporate governance effective. The various steps that can make existing corporate governance practice an effective one are as follows. Commitment of board, legal and administrative framework, transparency in decision making, proper implementation of codes, improving the system, abolishing Sick Units Act, reviewing banking system, making law effective, strict compliance, increasing the role of independent directors, highlighting the governance role, corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is an organization's obligation to benefit society in ways that transcend the primary business objective of maximizing profit. Corporate social responsibility refers to the obligation of an organization to seek actions that protect and improve the welfare of society along with its own interests. The nature of corporate social responsibility. CSR focus of business firms. CSR deals with moral and other issues. CSR commensurate with profit maximization. CSR is a pervasive activity. CSR is a continuing activity. Corporate social responsibility is a compulsory obligation. Approaches to corporate social responsibility. There are 4 approaches to corporate social responsibility, and these are as follows. First is social obstruction. Though few in number, firms that follow the approach to social responsibility, they oppose the concept of corporate social responsibility and do not consider the cost of business decisions on social environment. Second, social obligation. The socially obliged firms discharge their social responsibility to the extent that avoids government interference. The business organization does everything that is legally required of it. Third, social response. The firms perform legal, ethical, and social obligations only if they are asked to do so. Thus, it is discharging social responsibility in response to demand should be replaced to an organizational culture to do so. Rather, it is mandatory as per New Companies Act 2013. Fourth, social contribution. Socially responsive firms which favor the concept of corporate social responsibility follows the social contribution approach where they look for opportunities to perform. Applicability of corporate social responsibility. Section 135, subsection 1 of Companies Act 2013 dealing with the applicability criteria for corporate social responsibility requirements refers to net worth or turnover or net profit during any financial year. The financial year refers to completed period and year in respect of which the financial statements of a company are made up. Thus, the company uses its financial statements for immediately preceding financial year to determine corporate social responsibility applicability. Summary. The concept of corporate governance emerged in the late 1980s when several companies collapsed in UK due to inadequacy of operating control. This led to setting up of Cadbury Committee on Corporate Governance in 1991 in London Stock Exchange. The concern was not much on account of collapse of these companies, but it was because that these companies were perceived to be very stable companies in their financial statements. The report of the committee along with the code of best practices was published in 1992, which was to be complied with by all the listed companies. Corporate governance envisages the set of systems and checks which ensure that the company is properly managed to the benefits of shareholders, creditors, employees, customers, suppliers, government, and the society. A corporate means a legal entity that exists independent of the persons who have formed it and vested with many of the rights given to the board of directors and management. And governance means a system of control and direction. So, corporate governance refers to the ways in which the corporations are controlled and directed. Corporations are fundamentally governed by the board of directors overseeing top management with the consensus of shareholders and stakeholders. The word governance has been derived from governor, which means to rule, to steer. It is the process by which power and authority is exercised. However, when the concept of governance is applied with corporations, it would be termed as the concept of corporate governance. In corporate governance, the governance is the act of framing plans, policies, and strategies and monitoring the same to ensure their proper implementation and accepting the accountability for the affairs of the corporation. Values are the impressive objectives and goals in human life, which brings peace, progress, and prosperity in human life. Values are the basic fundamental beliefs that an individual thinks to be true. Every individual has a set of values through which He looks at all things and also at the world at large. It can be said that most of the people will never deviate from their values. The values can be said to be guiding principles in one's life. Values can be defined as a bridge by which individual makes a decision regarding good and bad, right and wrong, and most important and less important. Human values are very important for all of us, especially during the human interactions at the business places. These are the foundations for any viable life within the society with peaceful coexistence. Management is the process of optimum utilization of human and non-human resources with the intent to accomplish the objectives of the organization along with the value addition to the world. Therefore, the human values and ethical behavior are essential elements of healthy business environment. Abundant access to information and greater business opportunities than ever before makes the human values and ethics an essential requirement in the modern business world. For any organization to grow, due preference should be given to the highest priority values. It contributes to the shared meaning in the organization and it binds the people together as a community and provides the people with the common language. It tells people how to behave for achieving organization's vision and contribute to organization's viability and performance. Corporate governance specifies the distribution of rights and responsibilities among different participants in the corporation such as board, managers, shareholders and other stakeholders, and it spells out the rules and procedures for making decisions on corporate affairs. Thank you.